Hi guys, hope you guys are doing well. Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to manage your cars and still get bookings while you're traveling or you're remote or just not there for some reason. So what to do if you can't be there in person. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that I normally in a given year travel about 4 times throughout the year. So I roughly take, maybe 3.5 weeks off where I'm away from the cars and away from home and away from doing this. Of course, that hasn't been the case this year, but let me give you guys some examples and strategies of what you can do to still get bookings while you're away and kind of the best way to do it. Now, the two most important things going into it is one, it requires preparation and you have to really plan ahead. So if this is something like a last minute trip, this would be very difficult to do. So the more you know in advance, the more time you have to fish for rentals for the time that you're going to be away, the more chances of success you have. So it all really comes down to the management of your settings. So let's say, for example, I'm going to be out of town from a Monday to a Friday, okay? So what I do the week prior to that is I block out that Monday through Friday because I don't want any sort of random bookings coming in for that time because I'm not going to be here. But I still want to make sure that I keep my settings as I normally would to get bookings for the current week and the current weekend that's about to come up. So I don't want to mess with any of the regular revenue that would come in for the time that we're in right now. Okay, so for example, today's Wednesday. So from this Wednesday to Sunday, I want to make sure I get my normal pace of bookings because I'm going out of town Monday through Friday. So Monday through Friday is blocked off, so I can't get any bookings coming in for that. Now, what I do, the reason why I block off Monday through Friday is to make sure that all of my cars come back on Sunday. Then I can open up my settings for Monday through Friday and start fishing for bookings for those dates. Okay, so now that Monday and Friday are blocked off, you kind of get all your bookings in for this week, Wednesday through Sunday, and you go through that motion. Once all of your cars come back on Sunday, then what I would do is open up my availability for Monday through Friday. So I would open up Monday morning and then I would open up Friday evening, but everything in between that, I would mark it as unavailable so that someone can't book like Monday through Wednesday or Tuesday through Thursday because I'm not here. And what if a car comes back, even though I can remotely control it, but it has damage and then I miss that 24-hour window to submit a claim. So you don't want to get yourself caught in that type of situation. So you really want to box off your settings so that people are forced to book within a certain time frame. And then you can also, on top of that, set your minimum days, like a 5-day minimum or whatever it might be. Now, this is where something like Turo Go really comes in handy and makes your life easier because you can kind of get the cars that are on Turo Go, which I have a few, get them ready, get them washed and clean, take your pre-trip photos, leave the keys. And even if some of those cars don't have bookings before you leave, you can still kind of fish for some bookings that fall into that range. Let's just say it's now Tuesday and you still haven't gotten a booking for a car, but you're already out of town, but it's a Turo Go car. And since you got it ready before you left, you can now open up Tuesday morning to get some bookings, but still have between the latter half of Tuesday through Friday blocked off so that they have to return Friday evening. So you can kind of continue to control the days that people book. Now, I do have some cars that are not on Turo Go, so here's what I do for those. For those ones, again, I work with marking the availability and the unavailability so that people have to book within a certain time frame. Now, for example, one of my cars that doesn't have Turo Go's, I can easily fish for a rental by, again, opening up availability Monday morning and then having available Friday evening and everything in between being unavailable. But for those 5 days, putting together a really good deal that makes it really enticing for someone to want to book for 5 days. Maybe they were thinking about 2 or 3 days, but the deal is so good that they'll take all 5. And they are forced to do it because they can't return any other time. So that's how you kind of fish for those bookings to kind of keep your cars out while you are away. So yeah, that's basically pretty much the strategies that I use. It's quite simple. You're just really controlling your availability and unavailability. And for cars that don't have Turo Go, you want to offer something. Now, another thing with if you're traveling during the weekdays is that that's usually downtime. So maybe some people prefer to just not have their cars out at all. But I personally like to try to get as many out as I can, because it just makes my trip so much better when I know that, I'm out traveling and spending money, but at the same time, I'm still making money, So it always just makes the trip a little bit sweeter, in my opinion. So, I really like to make sure that I get those cars out and get those bookings. And with the weekdays rentals in particular, what I like for me personally is that I usually get a lot of local renters who don't do a lot of high mileage driving. And you can even limit the miles. If you're offering a great deal, you can limit the miles and people will still bite for that type of a deal. So yeah, all around, I think that strategy has worked out really well for me in the past. And then a few other things, I'd like to have just, in case of emergency, precautions in place always, since you can't be there in person, right? So a few things is like, if I have my specialty vehicles, like my Vanderhaal and Polaris, those are probably the only ones I wouldn't rent out. My Polaris, for example, has a couple of renters who are repeat renters, and they usually like to take that car, say, 3-4 days at a time. The only scenario in which I would rent those out if I'm away is I would reach out to those people and say, hey, I have a really great deal. I'm going to be gone for 5 days. This is the deal if you want to take the car for that many days. That way, it's going to someone who's trusted, tried and true. They've had experience with the car, and you can rest easy knowing that one of your specialty cars is out with someone who is already familiar with it. So that's one thing. Then the second thing is, I like to make sure I have all the necessary things in case an emergency happens. So, you want to make sure that you have Turo's emergency roadside assistance number on hand, the incident card on hand in case one of your renters needs it. And then for me personally, I like to have a backup tow service always on hand that doesn't necessarily go through Turo, because sometimes going through Turo's service takes forever. It's also usually way more expensive. So you can use a bunch of services out there: AAA, Motor Club of America. One of the contributors on this channel, Jimmy Lee, thank you again, recommended to me Haggerty. So they have a great membership model as well. But I always like to have that backup service. And then finally, for just one additional layer of in case of emergency protection, I always like to have somebody who is here back home, who if I really, really need something, I can call them and say, hey, I need you to go check on this car, or I need you to go grab these photos. I need you to take care of a situation. For me personally, it's usually my older sister. So, I'll leave her with my keys, and just in case, I know that I can always call her, and she's just down the street, and she can always take care of something if need be. So it's always great to just have those sort of extra layers of precautions. That way, you don't want to disrupt your trip too bad if anything does happen, and you're prepared to just handle it and kind of squash it in the midst of it happening, and really just be able to diagnose it and troubleshoot it while you're away. So yeah, that's kind of how I prepare while I'm away, and it's always worked out real well for me. I've always been able to get most of my cars out while I'm gone and still earn that revenue, which is, that's the dream. That's the goal. You want to be able to go do the things that you want to do, live your life while you're earning money. And those are the strategies that I use. All right, guys, on that note, it is definitely my bedtime, so I am off for the night. Thank you so much for watching as well. I have a really fun video for you guys tomorrow, so be sure to tune in. Thank you again. My name is Saimah. This is Saimah's Experience, and I can't talk anymore, so good night. Take care, guys.